All right, hey everybody, and welcome to a deep dive. Well, let's just say it's going to be a little different.
Yeah, we're going full on Siskel and Ebert today.
Exactly. We're tackling the age-old question.
Yeah.
Do filmmakers actually care
What do they care about?
about what audiences think when they make those sequels
And reboots.
and remakes? Yeah.
I mean, it's a question that sparks so much debate online, right?
Oh, absolutely.
In those comment sections.
All over the place. Yeah, and we've got 3 movies we're going to be looking at today that definitely caused a stir online.
Yeah.
We've got Joker, Folie à Deux,
Okay.
The Crow reboot,
Mm-hmm.
and The Matrix Resurrections.
Interesting choices.
And, each one of these has had people saying that the filmmakers were just trying to make money
Yeah.
and they didn't care about the fans or the original movies.
And each film takes a different approach.
Right.
Joker, too, they're trying to go deeper into, like, the psychology.
Yeah.
The Crow is trying to bring back that dark 90s vibe. And then Matrix Resurrections is dealing with the legacy of this whole trilogy.
Yeah. So let's jump right in with Joker 2. We've got this YouTube video called Anatomy of a Failure, and it just tears the movie apart.
Oh, wow.
And the biggest thing this critic hates is that they took away everything that made Arthur Fleck such an interesting character.
They neutered him.
They really did, yeah.
I mean, in the first movie, he was so compelling because he was isolated and alienated.
Yeah.
And this one makes him more passive and dependent on Harley Quinn.
Right.
It's like they wanted a traditional comic book thing, and they kind of forgot what made Joker special in the first place.
Yeah, it's like they turned this character study into a generic superhero movie.
Oh, yeah.
The critic even says, and this is hilarious, that the sequel should be about Harley Quinn.
What about Harley?
Yeah, and how she goes crazy because of Joker being on TV.
That's interesting.
Right. Instead of rehashing the Joker story again, we could have seen things from her point of view.
We could see, like, how his chaos affects everyone around him.
Yeah, and think about it. It'd be like a satire of influencer culture today.
Oh, that's a really good point.
With Harley being obsessed with Joker, just like people are obsessed with influencers online.
They really missed an opportunity there.
They totally did, and the critic also hates that Joker 2 just uses the same imagery over and over again.
What do you mean?
Like Arthur's laugh and the whole Gotham City look.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't do anything new with it.
They're just relying on that nostalgia.
Yeah, basically.
Without actually giving us anything new.
Exactly. Like, hey, remember this cool thing? Well, here it is again, but bigger and louder.
But is it better?
Not really. Okay, let's move on to The Crow.
Okay, the reboot.
The reboot. Yeah. And this YouTuber goes after it for being way too negative.
What does he mean by that?
He says it's all darkness with no light or hope.
Oh, so it's just relentless.
Yeah. And he says that even in a dark movie, you need some balance.
Yeah, like light and shade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the audience can feel the weight of the story.
It's like a roller coaster, right?
Yeah. Ooh, good analogy.
You need those highs and lows.
Otherwise, it's just one long, depressing ride. And you know what else the critic hates?
The Crow.
Uh-huh. No, the characters.
Oh, the characters.
He says they're unlikable, and you can't relate to them at all.
Okay.
And he specifically calls out the hero and his girlfriend.
What they do.
They escape from rehab, and then what do? They go party.
Instead of, like, dealing with their issues.
Right. Like, who does that?
So he's saying we need to see some humanity in these characters.
Yeah. Even if they're messed up.
Even if they're flawed, we need something to connect with.
Otherwise, why should we care about them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and get this. The critic also says, The Crow is way too serious.
Like it takes itself too seriously.
Yeah, and he says it's totally lacking self-awareness.
How so?
He points to the Crow imagery being over the top and the hero suddenly being a master swordsman.
Trying too hard.
So hard to be edgy, and it just ends up being funny.
So it's like that balance between darkness and camp.
Mm-hmm.
You can be dark, but it has to feel real.
Yeah, you gotta earn it.
Like build a believable world and characters.
Otherwise, it's just silly like wearing sunglasses inside.
Yeah, trying too hard.
Exactly.
So it's like they were trying to copy the original, but they missed the point.
Yeah, they just threw in all the cool stuff without understanding what made the Crow so powerful.
Okay, so what about The Matrix?
All right, let's plug back into The Matrix Resurrections and get this YouTuber compares the movie to the studio itself.
Oh, is that?
He's saying that the studio basically forced another Matrix movie to happen, whether the Wachowskis wanted to make it or not.
So just like Neo being forced back into the Matrix.
Whoa, yeah. It's like the studio's like, we're making another Matrix, deal with it.
And the critic is saying that actually hurts the movie.
Right.
It feels like a cash grab instead of a natural continuation of the story.
It's like they plugged Neo into a nostalgia machine.
Just to make money.
And you know what else is weird? Neo's powers are way weaker in this one.
He's not the same Neo.
Nope. He's not the all-powerful bullet-dodging guy anymore.
He's more like a confused old man.
Kinda, yeah. And don't even get me started on Agent Smith.
What happened to him?
He went from this scary, philosophical bad guy to a whiny, annoying villain, like a mosquito you can't swat away.
So basically, they took away what made those characters so cool.
Exactly. And the critic says that takes away the deeper meaning that made the original Matrix so groundbreaking.
It's like your favorite band selling out.
Ouch, but true.
Playing generic pop songs instead of their classic hits.
And here's another thing the critic didn't like. They didn't fix the problems people had with the last Matrix movie.
Revolutions.
Yeah, especially those boring Zion scenes.
Oh, man.
Remember all that strawberry growing?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
And they just do more of that in this one.
So they didn't listen to what the fans were saying?
Nope. And that brings up a really interesting question. Should filmmakers listen to their fans?
Or do they have the right to make whatever they want?
Tough question around.
Yeah, it is. Because on one hand, artists need freedom to be creative. But on the other hand, when you're dealing with these huge franchises that people love, there's a feeling that you should respect the original.
Like an unspoken agreement.
Yeah, and when you ignore the fans and make a sequel that feels cheap,
you can really hurt that trust.
For sure, and it can alienate the very people who made the franchise successful in the first place.
That's a good point. So back to our big question. Do filmmakers care about their audiences when they make these sequels and reboots and remakes?
Based on these 3 movies, it's like...
It's complicated.
Yeah, it depends.
We've seen some real passion.
And some blatant cash grabs.
So how do we figure out which is which?
I think we need to be more critical viewers.
Like, really pay attention.
Yeah, and talk about what we see and be honest about our opinions, good or bad.
And maybe if we're more vocal,
we can influence what gets made.
And encourage filmmakers to focus on quality over making a quick buck.
That's a good goal because movies are powerful.
Yeah, they can really affect us.
They deserve to be treated with respect by the people who make them and the people who watch them.
So what can filmmakers learn from these movies we've talked about? What makes a good sequel?
Well, you gotta love the original.
Yeah.
You have to understand why people connected with it and why those characters are still important to them.
It's not about just making money.
It's about expanding on that world and those characters that people love.
So it's not a reboot. It's like...
rebooting our imaginations.
Love it.
And you have to be willing to take risks.
Yeah.
Push the story further. Explore new things.
Don't just give us the same thing again.
Exactly. A great sequel is like a conversation. It builds on what came before.
It's like taking a song and adding new harmonies and rhythms.
You got it. That's what makes it special.
Okay. We've looked at the bad sequels, but there are good ones out there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like sequels that are even better than the originals.
Like Empire Strikes Back?
Man Max.
Yeah.
Fury Road.
Spider-Man 2.
Those movies didn't just copy, they did something new.
Right. They took the best parts of the originals and made them even better.
Deeper characters, bigger world, and they took the story in a new direction.
It's like they leveled up.
They evolved
Yeah.
instead of just hitting reset.
That's a great way to put it.
So what makes those sequels so good?
I think it comes down to passion. The filmmakers loved those original movies.
You can tell.
And they put that love into the sequels.
It's not just a fan film, it's art.
Exactly. And they weren't afraid to take risks.
To try something new.
Yeah, challenge the audience, do something unexpected.
You didn't play it safe.
They trusted their gut and made something memorable.
So back to our original question. Do filmmakers care about us when they make these sequels?
It's complicated.
You're really good at that.
Well, it's true. There's no easy answer.
We've seen both sides.
Some movies feel like cash grabs.
Like reheated leftovers.
But others were made with love and respect for the fans.
So maybe it's about intention.
Maybe. Or maybe it's about finding that balance between art and what the audience wants.
It's a tough balance.
Yeah, like walking a tightrope.
One wrong step and it all falls apart.
But when you get it right, you create something amazing.
All right, so we've talked about 3 controversial movies and all the ups and downs of making sequels.
Yeah, maybe we learned a little something about how filmmakers and audiences work together.
Or don't work together.
It's a bigger conversation than just movies.
It is. It's about creativity and nostalgia and art versus money.
Wow, deep thoughts.
But the main thing we want you to take away from this is to really think about the movies you watch.
Be critical. Ask questions and talk about them with other people.
And on that note, here's a question for you to think about. In a world where everything is sequels and reboots,
what's our responsibility as viewers?
Do we need to support movies that are good art even if they don't make a ton of money?
That's a good question.
Think about it. Until next time, keep watching, keep thinking, and keep diving deep.
See you next time. It's like they were so focused on making it dark that they forgot to make it good.
Exactly like a Frankenstein monster of 90s nostalgia.
All style, no substance.
Okay, so let's jack back into the Matrix, shall we?
Resurrections.
Yes, Resurrections. And this YouTuber, he makes a really interesting comparison.
Oh, yeah.
He compares the movie itself to the studio that made it.
What do you mean?
He's saying that the studio was basically like, we're making another Matrix movie.
Whether anyone wants it or not.
Exactly. It's like they were forcing it to happen.
Just like they forced Neo back into the Matrix.
Oh, yeah. It's meta.
Very meta. And the critic says that actually hurts the movie.
How so?
It doesn't feel like a natural progression. It feels like a cash grab.
Like they're just exploiting the franchise.
Exactly. And the critic also points out that Neo is way less powerful in this one.
Oh, yeah. He's not the same Neo at all.
He's not kicking butt and dodging bullets like he used to.
He's more like a confused old man stumbling around.
And what about Agent Smith?
Don't even get me started.
What happened?
He went from being this terrifying force of nature to like a whiny little kid.
He's lost his edge.
Completely.
Yeah.
And the critic says that by weakening these characters...
They weaken the whole movie.
Yeah, it loses all that depth and meaning that made the original Matrix so special.
It's like they took everything we loved about those characters.
And threw it out the window.
And speaking of things, they threw out the window.
What's that?
Remember all the complaints about Revolution?
Oh, yeah, like the slow, boring Zion scenes.
Did they fix those?
Nope.
Really?
They actually doubled down on them.
Oh, no, more strawberry farming.
More strawberries than you can shake a stick at.
Yes. So basically, they just ignored what the fans were saying.
Well, it's like they didn't even care.
Which brings us back to that question. Should filmmakers listen to their fans?
Is it their job to give the people what they want?
It's tricky because art should be about expressing yourself.
Right.
But when you're dealing with something like The Matrix,
Something that means so much to people.
There's an obligation to respect that.
To honor what came before.
Exactly. And when you make a sequel that feels like a cheap imitation,
you betray that trust.
You alienate the fans who made the original a success.
So do filmmakers care about their audiences?
It's a mixed bag.
We've seen good and bad.
Some filmmakers are passionate.
They want to make something great.
But others just want to make a quick buck.
And it's up to us to figure out who's who.
We need to be smarter viewers.
More critical.
Think about what we're watching and don't be afraid to speak up.
If we all do that,
maybe we can make a difference.
Encourage filmmakers to make better movies.
Movies that are worthy of the originals.
So what can they learn from all this?
What makes a good sequel?
A sequel that doesn't suck.
You have to start with love.
Love for the original.
You have to get it. You have to understand why it worked.
And why people still care about it all these years later.
It's not about making a copy.
It's about taking those characters and that world.
And expanding on them.
Making them even richer and deeper.
So it's not just a sequel.
It's like a rebirth.
Reimagining a whole new level.
And you have to be bold.
Don't be afraid to take risks.
Try new things, push the boundaries. Don't just give us more of the same.
A great sequel is a conversation.
It builds on what came before.
But it also takes us somewhere new.
Like adding new instruments to a song.
Creating a whole new sound.
Okay, so we've talked about the bad sequels, but what about the good ones?
The ones that actually surpass the originals.
Like Empire Strikes Back or Terminator 2.
Those movies took everything great about the first films.
And made them even better.
They went deeper. They expanded the world.
They took the story in unexpected directions.
They leveled up.
They didn't just hit the reset button.
They evolved.
So what's the secret?
What makes those sequels so special?
Is it just talent, or is there something more?
It's a combination of things.
Like what?
First, you need filmmakers who are passionate about the material.
They have to love the original.
They have to understand why it resonated with audiences.
Why those characters and stories still matter.
It's the difference between a cover band and the real deal.
One is just imitating.
The other is creating something new from a place of genuine inspiration.
And you also need courage.
The courage to take risks.
To challenge conventions.
To subvert expectations.
They knew they couldn't just repeat what worked before.
They had to push the boundaries and explore new territory.
So it's not just about honoring the past.
It's about building on it, adding to it.
Even deconstructing it sometimes.
That's what makes those sequels so compelling.
They're not just retreading familiar ground.
They're charting new courses, opening up new possibilities.
Inviting us to see those worlds and characters in a whole new light. So after all this talk about sequels and reboots and remakes...
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Do filmmakers really care about their audiences?
It's complicated.
That's your favorite answer, isn't it?
Well, it's true. There's no easy yes or no.
We've seen both sides of the coin.
Some films feel like cynical cash grabs.
Just trying to milk the franchise for all it's worth.
But others were clearly made with love and respect for the fans.
So maybe it comes down to intention?
Maybe. Or maybe it's about finding that sweet spot.
Between artistic vision and what the audience wants.
It's a delicate balance.
Like walking a tightrope.
One wrong step and the whole thing falls apart. But when you find that balance...
When you create something that both honors the original and stands on its own.
That's when the magic happens.
So we've dissected 3 controversial films.
We've explored the highs and lows of sequel making.
And maybe we've even gained a little insight into the complex relationship
between filmmakers and their audiences.
But this conversation goes beyond just movies.
It's about creativity and nostalgia.
The allure of the familiar and the desire for something new.
The tension between art and commerce.
Wow, we've gone from Siskel and Ebert to, like, deep philosophical stuff?
Maybe, but the most important thing is to engage with the art you consume.
Don't just watch it.
Think about it, analyze it, discuss it.
Hold filmmakers accountable.
Demand more than just empty spectacle and recycled tropes.
We deserve better.
We deserve sequels and reboots and remakes that are as thoughtful and innovative and emotionally resonant
as the originals that inspired them.
Well said. And on that note, we leave you with one final thought.
A question to ponder as you continue your cinematic journey.
In a world saturated with franchises and reboots,
what is our responsibility as viewers?
To support films that prioritize artistry over profit.
Think about it, folks. Until next time.
Keep watching, keep questioning, and keep those conversations going.
It's funny, we've been talking about these sequels that didn't really work.
Yeah.
But there are some out there that are actually amazing.
Oh, yeah. Some sequels are even better than the originals.
Right. Like, way better.
Godfather Part 2.
Empire Strikes Back.
Terminator 2.
Those movies didn't just rehash. They took things to a whole new level.
And they still felt true to the originals.
Yeah, it wasn't just about making things bigger and louder.
It was about understanding the characters and the world even more.
Like Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, yeah.
It took everything we loved about Star Wars.
The space battles, the Force, good versus evil.
And it added so much more.
More complexity, moral ambiguity.
Emotion.
Luke struggling with his dark side.
Han Solo facing his past.
And Darth Vader revealing his vulnerability.
And that I am your father moment.
I know. It blew everyone's minds.
It changed the whole story.
Those are the sequels that make you rethink everything.
So what's the secret? What makes those sequels so great?
Well, it's not just one thing.
Okay.
You need talented filmmakers, of course.
But there's got to be more to it than that.
There is. The filmmakers have to be passionate about the original.
They have to really get it.
They have to understand why it connected with people.
Why those stories and characters still matter today.
It's like the difference between a cover band and the original artist.
Oh, I like that.
One is just imitating, the other is creating from the heart.
And you also need courage.
Courage to take risks.
To do something different.
Not just play it safe.
Those great sequels, they challenged us.
They subverted our expectations.
They didn't just give us more of the same.
They took the story in a whole new direction.
So it's not just about honoring the past.
It's about building on it, expanding it.
Sometimes even tearing it down.
That's what makes them so interesting.
They make us see those worlds and characters in a whole new way. So after all this talk about sequels, good and bad...
What's the verdict?
Do filmmakers really care about their audiences?
Well, it's tough to say.
It's not a simple answer, is it?
It's not black and white.
We've seen some filmmakers who just want to make money.
But we've also seen those who truly care about the fans.
And who want to make something special.
I think it's up to us as viewers.
To pay attention.
To be critical.
To demand more.
We deserve sequels that are as good as the originals.
That's what we're here for.
To have those conversations.
To challenge filmmakers.
To push them to be better.
To make movies that matter.
So let's keep talking.
Keep thinking.
And keep demanding more from the movies we love.
Until next time, happy viewing, everyone.